Once again, I have to ask myself, how will I ever live without this series coming into my life right now? Anyway, hello there everybody, this is CwapTheNintendin here, and welcome to another edition of Platinum Impressions, in which I talk about stuff that I've never played before in my life, including this one. So, technically I've had this since 2014 on my PS3, and I haven't really touched it. My friends have been egging me on over and over again to play this game, and now in April 2016, I finally do it. So, we are going to be talking about Metal Gear for the MSX. No, we're not talking about other versions. We're talking about the OG MSX DOS PC 8-bit computer system for PS3 Metal Gear. So you're probably expecting me to say, "Oh my god, why didn't you play Metal Gear Solid first? Shouldn't everyone be everyone's first Metal Gear game?" Well, for this time, I wanted to go and start the series with the first ever one. I'm doing them in chronological order by release. Not the chronological order by the timeline, because I know this, because from what I've read, this takes place in the middle, but who really cares? But, yeah, Metal Gear, I've known about, at least. Well, obviously, because, well, I played Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and like everyone else, I was pretty excited, because I never really heard of Solid Snake when, Brawl was announced. And when I played, you know, Smash Brothers and stuff, I learned all about, the Metal Gear stuff. I just never got around to playing it because A, I never had any interest in it, or B, I didn't have a PlayStation at the time, of course, because I was like all Nintendo and stuff. But now that I have a PS3 and Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection, I'm finally able to do it. And I'm going to be starting off with the first game, Metal Gear for MSX, obviously. So, what this game is be all about and stuff. What this game is be. Well, it's about infiltrating this sort of base of sorts called Outer Heaven. The special unit Foxhound, apparently, according to the background of the game, basically. Foxhound sends this agent in called Gray Fox, and after a few days, he goes missing. Presumably being either kidnapped or missing in action. So they have to so Foxhound has to send in Solid Snake in order to do, you know, all the work and stuff. All being commanded by the Big Boss. And a bunch of other team members that you don't really get to know about because this game's plot is relatively simple. And basically your mission as Solid Snake is to infiltrate Outer Heaven, rescue all the hostages, including Gray Fox, and find out a way to destroy the ultimate weapon that the enemy is making. Metal Gear. I won't be saying Metal Gear like that all the time, but basically, you gotta find a way to stop this weapon called Metal Gear before it, you know, gets completed and it, you know, destroys the world, all that stuff. So, yeah, pretty basic plot, you know. It's Kojima's first like technical game? Even though I was told otherwise, but yeah, pretty simple plots, pretty simple stuff, all that jazz. And what's really weird is that throughout the game, while you're rescuing all the hostages, like, people will tell you all about these guys that you're supposedly working with, like Diane, the Resistance leader, Schneider, and stuff. But what's really weird is that in Schneider's case, you don't get the transceiver. I'll get into that in a little bit, like using the transceiver to call your other teammates for help or stuff. But wait, why am I even talking about it? It's a basic plot. I shouldn't expect much. I was even thinking about this in my head too, and like I was even going over like how am I gonna talk about like a basic game like Metal Gear in a sort of scenario like this. I don't know, but what I do know is that the game only has only like one song, or in that case two, if you count what's in Super Smash Bros. Brawl to be like that. So Basically, in terms of the soundtrack, all you're gonna hear throughout the entire game, if it's not a boss theme, if it's not like the theme to when you're exploring the basements of buildings, or the last bosses, for that matter, or the end credits theme, is Theme of Terra. And it's a good song. It's a good song, it really is, but hearing it throughout 80% of the game... I mean, honestly, I never really get tired of the theme, honestly, but I normally just play with other soundtracks or videos while I'm just playing it listening in my brain, while the TV is just, not really muted, but, you know, stuff. So can't really say much about the soundtrack other than just Theme of Terra. I can already certainly tell that the next game, Metal Gear 2, is gonna have like a lot more soundtracks, because I did look up the soundtrack and it's a much more expansive soundtrack now that I think about it. In fact, I'm actually listening to one such song right now. Gonna have to wait and see what it is. So, think about this. This game is sort of like an action game. Well, it's not really more like an action game as more like a stealth game. And that was relatively new for the time. Because what the original plan, I believe, for Kojima was to make a solid action game with all sorts of, you know, manly stuff that, you know, what you expect from Konami, like explosions, guns, machine guns, more explosion, more Michael Bay's. But apparently, according to the MSX's technology, it wasn't really bound to happen. So what Kojima ended up doing was making Metal Gear a solid stealth game. Solid being a relatively term, not just a play on words. But, yeah. It's a stealth game. It's more like a stealth game, and that was relatively new for the video game industry at the time. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Of course, the game doesn't require you to use stealth all the time. In fact, you can pretty much run into all the men patrolling the station. You'll be completely fine. All you really have to worry about is just dying and all that. So, yeah, the stealth element adds a bit of a layer to the gameplay, as it were, you know? It just makes things a little bit more interesting. And if you're not playing on easy difficulty like I am here, you're gonna need stealth more than usual. Now, I chose easy, actually, because I already played through original difficulty, and that was actually pretty hard, now that I think about it. You don't really need to use stealth in terms of, like, easy difficulty. In fact, I'm not even sure if easy difficulty was added for the PS3 re-release, or if it was in the original version at all. But hey, easy difficulty I played for the first time, and then I played the second time on OG difficulty, and that was hard. So let's say you're playing on original difficulty, you're gonna need a lot more stealth than usual. And that's where, you know, your element of stealth comes into play. You can basically punch out guards, or you can shoot guards with your pistol or machine guns. You can blow them up with, like, rocket launchers, grenade launchers. Yeah, there's plenty of different kinds of weapons here. Probably like the most expansive I've ever seen in an 8-bit game, if it's not like any of the Mega Mans, but yeah, these weapons are actually really cool. Honestly, they're really good to use. And if you're playing easy, again, you are going to be spending a lot of time just owning everybody with your, like, expansive ammo select. But with the OG difficulty, it's a little bit more limited and stuff. It's a little bit more limited. And that's where the trick of the games comes into play. The technical aspect of the game comes into play. So throughout the game, you're basically getting ammunition for your weapons. Your rations come into play, because that will restore your health. Because there's no health drop. Because technically there are no small health drops. The only way you can regain health is by using rations. Unfortunately, in this game, rations, ammunitions, and all the other weapons, they can respawn as soon as you, like, leave an area or a truck that you get your rations or mines or plastic explosives or anything like that in the game. So yeah, it's really easy to kind of sort of manage your inventory space, or to kind of manage your, like, ammunition and rations and all that stuff. Especially on easy, because you can carry a lot of things in there. But for OG, you're going to be spending a lot more time just backtracking throughout the Outer Heaven Basin, just, you know, getting all the stuffs. Yeah. Also, I find that often, like, using, just equipping your items and equipment, you know, constantly pausing the game, to select your thing, select all the things that you need and all your equipment that you get throughout the game. Like, there's obviously a lot more than just, you know, key cards and rations. You also get, like, gas masks for the rooms. You get body armor for halving your damage, bomb blast suits for protecting yourself from explosions, so on and so forth. But as you get more and more, you know, into, you know, the game, you get a lot more and more stuff, as it were. Even the infamous cardboard box, which you can use to sneak past and stuff. Honestly, I don't really find like constantly pausing the game an issue, because it happens really quickly. It only takes, like, I don't know, a few seconds out of your time to, you know, get all the stuff that you need. But what I can say is kind of unfair is that, you know, in the gas rooms, like in the gas rooms where you're supposed to use the gas mask on, like, say it's like your first playthrough, or rather or maybe your second playthrough, if, you know, you took some time away from the game in order to do that. So let's just say you forgot that there is a gas room, like, in the place, right? And you use one of the many key cards, finding the right one, and then just opening the door and then going immediately into the thing. You immediately start taking damage. Like, immediately start taking damage, and your health just gets lower and lower and lower until you realize it's, like, too late. It doesn't deplete, like, rapidly, honestly, but it is a little bit bad on how, like, you know, you have to take damage before you give up your gas mask. And I find it kind of cheap. That, you know, you have to take off your gas mask just to equip your key card and then open up the door to the next room and stuff. Well, in some cases anyway. I'm only showing, like, the first, like, 25 minutes of the game here. It's, yeah. Trust me, there are a lot more, like, worse cases of games of this kind of being cheap. And you want to know what I find, like, really annoying? Like, later on in the game, you start to encounter traps, as it were. Like, invisible, like, in these sort of areas, that you won't know for the first time playing. Especially when you're rescuing, like, an important character, Dr. Matnar, who developed the Metal Gear robot. You rescue him for the first time, and it turns out he's a fake. And then he's like, "You fell into my trap, die, Foxhound!" And then like, he springs a trap all around you, and guess what that trap is? Instant death. In fact, all of the death traps, or rather, the traps in there are instant death. And that brings me into a little bit of an issue with, like, Metal Gear as it were. Well, in terms of the PS3 version, I don't know about, like, any other versions of the game that are out there. But since, you know, the PS3 version is the one that I have, or rather the MGS3 HD Collection Edition, but we'll get to that eventually, is that saving can be really, really weird. Like, saving in Metal Gear 1 is really wonky. Like, sometimes it'll save and it'll display the exact time frame that you have, you know, accumulated in playing the game, and when you save next, it'll show out the exact same time frame as you saved last time. Saving only really functions when you're in those rooms with the elevators that you have to go up and down on and stuff in order to reach, you know, your floor, the various floors of the base. And yeah, my first time playing through, like, it took me 4 hours to beat. Like, Metal Gear is not even that long of a game if you know what you're doing. Like 2 hours, 2.5 hours at best. If you don't know what you're doing, double that time if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're constantly using maps in order to do that stuff. But I'll get to, you know, using maps in a bit. But again, saving is really wacky. Like, imagine if you saved last time and then you died and you have to get all those items again just because you forgot to save at a certain point. Or if you did save and the game is registered like, oh, sorry, did you not save at an elevator area? Well, too bad. You have to do that all over again. Yeah, saving is just the weirdest thing ever. It's probably like the weirdest save function I've ever seen ever. Like, saving is supposed to be, you know, saving at your exact location or in the entrance of a room that you last visited in, but yeah, saving is just really weird. But do you want to know what's also a bit weird? How, okay, I guess I would, like some of these early games, adventure games where you don't know where to go, or you don't know what to do, or you don't know where certain hidden things are. Like, you have to use some sort of like bare bones guide in order to, you know, use it. Because how would you be able to figure out that there were like breakable walls that you could, you know, use your plastic explosives on, or what is another example? Oh yeah. How would you know that you were supposed to use you know, the special frequency for another member of Foxhound Jennifer to open the door for you, or something like that, in order to get the rocket launcher, I believe? And speaking of Jennifer, before I get to, you know, the other thing about, you know, using Metal Gear as sort of a guide game, as it were, like, how the heck were you supposed to know that rescuing hostages is omnipotent? Like, the first time playing, I just sort of expected, like, you to go around saving hostages, because, you know, on the bottom of the screen there is sort of a class ranking system, and it goes up all the way to 4 stars. The more hostages you rescue, the higher your rank gets up, as it were. So this game basically requires you to be at class rank 4 in order to even receive help from Jennifer in the first place. And receiving help from Jennifer is required in order to finish the game. And yeah, the game doesn't really stress enough that rescuing hostages is important. The game really doesn't. But, you know, you just sort of go along with instinct. But if the game doesn't stress, like, oh, you have to rescue hostages, or explain the class system, it's not really going to be, like, any helpful to you if you're not all about, you know, rescuing hostages and stuff. Of course, you don't have to rescue all the hostages. In fact, you can basically rescue enough just so that your class rank can go up. But how would you know how not to do certain things? Because some hostages give you important information, or some hostages be all like, oh hey, I'm safe, thank you, or something. Yeah, it's just really weird. Some things in this game are just kind of not rubbing me the right way, like, you know, the whole class system not being explained, saving being all wonky, and the amount of backtracking you have to do, especially considering that there are 2 buildings, or rather 3 buildings, that you have to go through in Outer Heaven, and first time playing through, you're gonna spend, like, the whole, like, 25% of the game just backtracking in order to get certain stuff. Or, like, if you don't, or if none of the the card keys that you have work on these certain doors, you have to get, like, a later key in order to move on and stuff. It's weird. All this is just kind of rubbing me the wrong way about the game, but, you know, it was the old days. That's all I gotta say. It's the old days, you know? Like, a lot of things weren't really established back in the 80s. So, yeah, some things about this game don't rub me the right way. Like, again, like I said before, saving doesn't really work all the time. The amount of backtracking can get kind of ridiculous if you don't know what you're doing. And, you know, the whole class system not being explained in the slightest. Except for the fact of one hostage saying, oh, you can contact Jennifer. She will help you. But she won't help you if you don't have a high enough class. Well, what the heck? How are you supposed to know? How the heck are you supposed to know what class is? What is class? Oh, it's that thing at the bottom of the screen that allows you to not only hold more equipment, but to also advance through the game. I don't know, it's weird. But considering that I've done like 2 playthroughs already, one on easy and one on original, this game is still really fun. I'm not going to say that it isn't fun just because those things drag the game down for me. Well, maybe the instant death traps now that I think about it, but this game is just really fun. I just can't put this game down. I can't put Metal Gear on MSX down because it's so fun to play. And it's just so fun to just punch out dudes, just shooting things, and, you know, sneak all around. I just have a feeling that Metal Gear will probably be a franchise that I will keep playing. That's an obvious hint to probably the next one, but of course I'll keep that up in the air. So yeah, Metal Gear, not really a bad start for the entire franchise as were, you know. It's got that one theme that you remember. It's got a whole bunch of stealth elements put into it. Basic yet effective plot. You know, it's pretty good. It's good. It's good. And I really can't wait to see how they improve on it in Metal Gear 2. I already know it has one of the best tracks in a game I've ever heard in my life. Yep. So yeah, Metal Gear, really good game. Solid. I'll keep playing it. In fact, I'm playing it right now. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Metal Gear for MSX. I'll see you guys whenever I play another game. So, yeah, see you guys on the next edition of Platinum Impressions. See you guys then. By the way, sorry for the composite quality. I do not have HD recording or S video on my PS3 yet. I'll get to it eventually.